The spoon clicked the porcelain with a sound that cut the room. Too bright, too decisive. It hung in the air longer than it should have. A small bell tolling something finished. I hadn't even taken my seat. They were already eating. The meal moved on without me. Her sister glanced up. That small satisfied shine in her eyes like a verdict given. You must prove yourself worthy, her expression said, and that was law. My wife looked up from her plate and smiled. That instant, precise, crystalline, was when something inside me split, hairline then widening into a break. I slipped the ring off my finger, set it down between the salt shaker and a scattering of crumbs, and left it there like a final punctuation. No words. Some truths are better left unspoken. They land as thuds. I found myself under the fig tree in the yard, the one whose branches still remembered the shape of our vows. Its limbs were knotted and brittle, fingers gnarled against a sky that never answered. We had made promises beneath this same canopy once. Now its leaves scraped like old paper. Inside the house, their laughter was loud and easy, too practiced, as if volume could mask the shape of what they were doing. They performed warmth like actors on a stage and expected me to improvise my place. I never quite learned the lines. The wound was not dramatic. It did not snap like a wire. It was erosion, soft, relentless. A dull stone worked at the skin until it gave. Memory folds back. The first time I met her sister, her hug was too long, her perfume sticking to my coat like smoke warning of a blaze. She used to tell me I was fortunate to be with her, that if I wanted to belong I would have to rise. My wife watched those moments with an ache that I once mistook for reserve. It was really calculation. There had been a rehearsal dinner before we were married. They put me at the far end of the table, away from the light. When I spilled wine on my sleeve they laughed as though I'd bled manners. You'll learn, they said. A sentence cheerfully offered as instruction and doom. I didn't learn, I remembered. I kept the memory like a bruise. Under the bed lies a box I never opened for trivial reasons. Not a vault of secrets so much as a reliquary of things I couldn't lay to rest. There's an old photograph. Her caught mid-laugh before the edges of her face learned how to harden. A dried rose from the bouquet she once accepted with a giggle. A shard of glass from the night she threw a cup and said she hadn't meant it, like a promise that split. And a scrap of receipt with a single hurried line on the back. I love you more when you try harder. I smoothed that paper until the ink grew faint. I kept it like a blade wrapped in satin, useful only to remember how sharp things can be. The relationship altered in small increments. It started with late nights that stretched into longer silences. Then her sister began to finish sentences on dinner tables and in conversations, as if together they had a mind and I was a footnote. We think, they'd say, we want, as though I'd become an afterthought inside their plural pronouns. I watched my wife grow more precise, her edges honing themselves under the sister's careful gaze. Once I overheard them laughing at my resume, ambition cosplay. They called it like a costume I'd borrowed. My wife did not defend me. She poured tea afterwards, sweet and apologetic, but the cup left a burn on my skin. 2 days after I left, they came to the apartment. They knocked, but not with the haste of fury, rather with the measured civility of people who believed civility could paper over everything. I did not open the door. I let their pleas pass through the wood. Her voice faltered first, then steadied and thinned. We're family, they said. We misunderstood. They slid an envelope beneath the door, and that was when the mask showed a seam. The envelope was thick, white, formal to the point of coldness. Inside, a typewritten agreement, terms to separate quietly, signatures that pretended to be equitable. But the paper held a second unconcealed thing, her sister's printed words, a line that revealed the plan like a map. Once he's gone, you and I can take everything. He's soft. He'll fold. They had expected me to vanish. I smiled that day for the first time in weeks, and it was not a smile of surrender. I had prepared. I had not fled. The next day their calm unraveled. The lease was shifted. The apartment became mine. Bank accounts were divided with careful signatures and then closed, access revoked without fanfare. The nonprofit I'd spun into being in her name was dissolved overnight. Funds quietly rerouted to shelters she'd never visited. When her sister tried to make noise, public accusations, the theatrical sort, I'd already been there with receipts and recorded histories and the quiet testimony of people who knew the truth. The internet learned enough to chip at their composed fronts. They returned once more. Not with knocks but standing under rain that washed mascara into morning streaks. Makeup ran like confession. My wife held the ring, the one I'd left at dinner, between two fingers, as if it were a relic she might reclaim. Her sister's hands trembled. I watched them from the window unseen, the pains cool against my forehead. I whispered to myself, not for them but for me. I am equal now, not in comparison to them but to myself. There was no sweet triumph, no gloating at their downfall. What came was heavy and quiet, the strange slow inhale after ruin. Standing in the wreckage of what once was, I felt something settle into place. It was not the bright flare of victory, nor even the sweet warmth of revenge. It was an austere stillness, a peace that arrives because the stones have finally stopped shifting beneath your feet. I breathed in that silence, not relieved so much as steady, and let the ruined house keep its echoes while I learned to stand again.